Hi, welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. I'm Kara, and today we are making a Yeti Slimline Shaker Valentine. So we're using Yeti or not, and the Scalloped Slimline with hearts, the landscape version, and then also the Hugs and Kisses line border. So I'm going to start with some watercolor paper and some regular white cardstock as my top layer, and just poke out those hearts, and then I am going to use those Zig clean color brush markers to create the background. So I'm just scribbling on all the colors. I use light blue, pink, and that one is Persian blue, and then a little bit of the light violet. So just scribbling everywhere. It looks like a mess, but I'll use a round brush and some water and just blend those together with the water, and it still looks like a bit of a mess, but this is the first layer, and I think after I add the second layer it's gonna look a lot more cohesive. So sped this up a bit, and I'm just gonna bring us to the end of the first layer here, and I want to make sure that that color goes all the way to the edges. So I'm just going to add some extra scribbles in there and blend that together as well. And once I have everything covered, I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to also do the same technique with the line border, Hugs and Kisses. This is also on watercolor paper. I kept it inside the paper that it's cut out of just to keep it from warping and bending, keeping it safe while I'm putting on the color there. I also cut one of the hearts out in watercolor paper as well, so I could get the XOXO, and I'm doing the same procedure there. Now I could have just cut this out of a background similar to the one I made above, but this way I have all the colors represented on my die cuts. Okay, so second layer coming in, and I am putting the colors just kind of directly over where they were before, because I like the amount of difference between, or the variation of the colors, but I wanted to darken them up or brighten them up. And adding that second layer of color kind of erases some of those scribble lines or blends them in better, so that you don't see the initial scribbles, so that where the water didn't blend them fully out, it's going to now. So you can see too, it's gotten a lot brighter. I'm just checking to see if I like it within the hearts, and decided I wanted a bit of a darker purple. This is just violet. It's called violet, and it adds just some more depth, I think, to the background. This is a fun technique I think you could do with kids too, because it's a bit foolproof. It's scribbling and blending with water. I think too that it can show how colors react together. So the pink and the blue become purple, but then, I'm adding in a different color purple, different shade. So just kind of a fun and easy and not too messy of a project that I think they could do as well, and you can have nice results when you're all done. Also, understanding the idea of layering and waiting for things to dry before you layer. So a lot of good life lessons. All right, well, now you can see I'm just putzing. When is enough? Well, I guess I decided right there was enough, and I'm gonna continue with the XOXO. And once they were dry, I put that large panel through my die cut machine all by itself, just to make sure that it was flat. All right, well, now it's time to stamp out our Yetis, and I'm using Lawn Fawn's Jet Black ink to stamp them out. I'm going to use Copic markers on them, and so here they are. I stamped them a couple of times, but just showed the one. And now for a sentiment. I'm finally putting a sentiment on before the whole card is put together. I usually wait to the end. All right, so to color these guys, I decided to find bright Copic markers that were similar in color to the background. So I'm using a B00 for this little guy, but decided I could go a little darker. So everywhere I put that B00, I am putting a B01, just a little bit darker there. And just following up the little lines in the drawing to kind of extend that fur out. And now I'm just blending that into the rest of the body with the B000. But I am saying that these guys are fairly white. I mean, they've got a blue cast to them, but they're white, so they're more like abominable snowmen. I know the Bigfoot would be brown, but you know, there's variation. They have different breeds, you know, like dogs and cats, right? So finishing up the blending on this second little guy, and then some pinks and violets for the hands and horns and face. So I'm starting with an RV00 just to get kind of color started in there, and then the V04. It's a very different color than other violets in the Copic family, so it works nice with the RVs. Here's the RV02, just blending that V04 up into that RV00, and just kind of blending the rest together with that. And I'm just going to add in a little bit of depth around the eyes, kind of the bridge of the nose there with the V04, and then blend that in with the RV02 to give him a little more shape to his face. I did pretty much the same with the other Yeti. And then I was looking at it and decided I think I'd like it to be a little bit bluer. So I'm putting in the B00 just to add some shading there, kind of give it more of a blue violet instead of the red violet look, I guess. Well, maybe just giving it some variation so it's not too flat. And I decided that the fur too could get a little more variation. So this is a BV01, so blue violet, just to give a little more interest to that fur, little shading there. So you can see the difference between just the plain blue on the bottom and the one with the blue violet. I think it has a little more interest to it. So just adding it onto my second one, and now I think they look good with the background. Now this is going to be a Valentine. I think it's fun to do a Valentine with these Yetis. It could be for a boy or a girl to get this one, or your husband or whomever. Well, I'm going to die cut them out with the coordinating dies, and it's time to put everything together. So I have my white cardstock, and I die cut that same heart landscape stitch die out of fun foam or craft foam, and I'm going to layer that. I'm just deciding how I want these two to sit in the hearts, and decided to make a shaker out of the center heart. So I have some acetate, and I'm just cutting it to size, and I'm going to use some double-sided tape to add that acetate to make a window out of that center heart. Now this is lawnfawn's double-sided tape. This is the 1/8 inch, and it is so malleable. You can just move it around, and then once I have it all in the shape here, just tear it off, and I can take off that release paper all in one and just kind of flatten up all the edges, and there it is. The acetate sits right on top of that, and just cut out whatever I have left that's hanging over of that window, and then put on some more double-sided tape, and this is the 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and this is going to be adhered now to the foam layer. I could have just as easily made all 3 of them shakers, and by cutting out that heart panel in craft foam, I have the perfect well for the shaker bits, which is easier than creating wells with foam tape to enclose the heart areas. Here it is all together, and it's nice and clean looking. Now I can get out my shaker bits, which for this I'm using chunky glitter from Lawnfawn. I'm just going to scoop some of that out and put it on the center of my panel. My craft foam happened to have adhesive on one side, so I've got that ready to go, and I'm scooping out some glitter, and it's always a matter of how much to put in. I mean, too much and you can't see the background, and too little and it's not enough to really make it a decent shaker, but you know, I just kind of eyeball it and I'll know better for the next time whether I put in too much or too little. But I'm pretty happy with the amount that is in this shaker. I feel like you can see the background, but it has enough to shake and sparkle. All right, so getting the 2 Yetis in here. Now there was some adhesive on my foam, so I'm just kind of picking that up with my scissors so that I can get them tucked under there. And that's really all I did to adhere them. Decided this guy needed to be in a little bit further. So now they are all set. And time to put on that line border. So this is the Hugs and Kisses line border from Lawnfawn. And set it on top. Try to keep it straight there and centered. Press it down, and then I'll dot the eye on the kisses with a little dot of glue, and then the tittle. And I still have it, which means it didn't run away on me. I usually have to cut a second one because I always lose that little guy. All right, tucking in the ends of the lines into the heart. Just using my scissors again to tuck it in there. And it says, Hugs and Kisses, the best is Yeti to come. So these are 2 Yetis going steady, I guess. All right, I was not sure where I wanted the XOs, and so I at first thought the center, and I thought, no, that you can't even see it. So I'm putting them up there at the top, and I move them around a bit. And I think it's interesting we say Hugs and Kisses, but we do the kisses and hugs when we put the XOs. Of course, it would look like the word ox. People would wonder why you spelled the word ox. All right, so that's why we do it. Well, so here I am overthinking it, trying to decide where to place them. So I put them aside, and I am going to attach my panel to a Slimline note card. Now this is 8.5 by 3.5 size. Center that up, and now I can go back to deciding where to put the XOs, and still overthinking it a bit, but decide this is where it's going to end up. My daughter is one of those that overthinks everything. She even has a t-shirt that says, "Hold on while I overthink this," and she has 5 of them. She wears them every Thursday, which means you can tell she overthought that one. 5 different t-shirts, all different designs, but they all say the same thing. All right, well, back to the card. So I'm putting some glue on my finger and then wiping the letter through the glue and then adding it to the card. That way it was easier than trying to add the glue directly onto the letters. It didn't have too much glue going on the letters. Just placing them where I want them, and then this card is all done. I hope you enjoyed this Yeti Slimline Shaker Valentine, and it inspired you to scribble up a vibrant background for yourself, or maybe create a shimmery shaker for Valentine's Day. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye!